It was a bright, clear day in the 1860s when you eclipsed the sun. It took 14 hours for the clock to pass by, more than 3 billion birds in the sky, and then the turn to one.
Featured speaker, and if you're new to Oasis, you might not know who our next presenter is. If you're a regular, you know her and you love her. All right, so a little bit of her, CV stuff. She's got a BA in religious studies and a master in ecumenics. I had to be really careful to pronounce that. It just, for some reason, that throws me. And that comes from Trinity College in Dublin. But she's an expert on lots of things. She'll talk about a wide range of topics in the lectures, and today proves that point. So pushing the boundaries of the things that someone with that CV might present. Here is Carrah Quigley.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
As always, I love you. And take a breath. I don't want to block Dolly Parton. It's one of my favorite quotes from Dolly Parton. I want to start out by saying that I acknowledge fully that I hate the beauty industry. Its primary purpose is to make you feel old, ugly, and fat. It's an entire industry based on fear. It is the most inhumane marketing system out there. I want you to know that I know this. It causes real-life consequences. In addition, the animal testing used by the cosmetics industry, the carcinogenic ingredients, and the environmental impact of all that plastic is enough to make me want to hide in a padded cell and whine the rest of my life away for the amount of money I have contributed to this sick sector of our society. I fully acknowledge the horrible and warped ways both men and women have been victimized by this industry. But for now, let's pretend we followed a group of women into the bathroom and we're about to reapply our lipstick and gossip about all the cute boys we want to kiss. Let's have fun behind the bathroom door. My name is Carrah, and I am a makeup addict. I love makeup. There is nothing like the feeling of breaking in a new lipstick. It's almost as good as being the first person to stick that knife into the peanut butter at the top of the jar. The sound of different compacts as they click, the different size of mirrors, the shine, lacquer, and thickness of a really expensive eyeshadow compact, the fall lines, the collector's editions, the limited editions, and the retros, all of it. Today there are more choices, more colors, more ways to express the artistry of the face than ever. We live in a world where women in tennis wear fake eyelashes to play in their semifinals, where manicures are a weekly ritual rather than a once-a-year treat, and where even men who aren't rock stars can put on mascara, black eyeliner, and lipstick and still rock it. It's an incredible time to be alive cosmetic-wise, and it's one of the reasons why I enjoy living today. My addiction began around the age of 9. I would pretend to be sick, looking miserable in bed, waiting for everyone to leave, when I would proceed to go through all my mother's and sister's makeup and put on as many items as I could. I would make myself up and then wash it off and then start all over again. I would look in the mirror, where I was Princess Diana and Donna Summer and Olivia Newton-John. After I washed my face for the second time, I had just enough time to eat, watch All My Children and One Life to Live, and put back myself in sick mode for my father to arrive after teaching his second class. This was one of the happiest parts of my childhood, besides dancing to Jesus Christ Superstar. Makeup was by far the most exciting thing I had to look forward to in adulthood. I simply couldn't wait. In 1983 and 1984, there was an explosion of images from pop culture that left a huge impression on me. Annie Lennox and Grace Jones. Both of these women were accused of sacrificing their attractiveness for their art. They were asked, "You're so beautiful, why would you chop off your hair and wear such bold makeup?" Both replied, "I'm an artist." These images and interviews left a mark on me that said, it's way more important to express yourself than be pretty. Above all, be cool, be creative, forget about being pretty. There was something about this I had also learned at a younger age. In 1977, I learned you didn't want to be the cute, innocent girl. You wanted to be the rebel. And even the Xanadu phase was something cool. The braided barrettes, and your kissing potion, and your satin nightgown were all you needed for a whole day of dancing to ELO and Donna Summer. These were the images that first informed me, the lip gloss and the feathered hair. Little did I know, by the time I turned 10, I was headed into the greatest, most radical feminist era burgeoning from the least likely of places, our pop culture. The delicacy of women's looks was being disrupted. Grace and Annie were just the beginning. I remembered the images from the 70s, like the classic orange lip. I saw the evolution of eyelashes from as far back as the 1920s. I was aware of the 1940s and their red lips, and the way that they painted their nails. They wouldn't paint the moons of the nails. The 1950s had all of its bright colors, A-line dresses, and all that fake happiness. The 60s had their cat eyes, which we're still doing today. And the 80s, it got even more to the point. The pose, the eyes, the lips, all had to reveal a come hither, or I want you. Everything was becoming bolder in a way that it hadn't before. I was also aware that the names attached to makeup were mostly female. Mary Kay, Elizabeth Arden, Estee Lauder. By the time I was in 5th grade, I worshipped my makeup. And I could tell that I could be the boss too. The problem was, I wasn't allowed to wear makeup. So I observed a lot. I spent all my money on approved lipstick glosses and pretended to be sick when I could so I could play, dream, and escape. The 90s bought the grunge movement, plucked eyebrows, and the brown lip. For years, we dabbed lip balm and then coated extra thick with brown eyeliner to get that muddy lip look. Anybody remember this? Oh yes, oh yes. And the 2000s brought a whole new look into the lexicon of iconic makeup styles, the nude lip. It first showed up on J-Lo in the Jenny from the Block video. It is the most highly sought after and coveted thing in the makeup world today. And it is extremely difficult to do. You have to play around a bit to get it to work, and it takes a lot of time and different lighting. Not to mention, do you want glossy or matte? A choice we didn't even have 4 years ago, when the matte look suddenly resurrected itself from its grave in 1997. Kim Kardashian is the current reigning queen of the nude lip, but J.Lo has never faltered in its use. She uses it to absolute perfection. The nude lip is now the gold standard, though nothing will ever replace the perfect red lip, if you can ever find the perfect red. It is a journey that will last you a lifetime. The bathroom. Makeup has never been superficial to me. It has always been my solace and my place in my life where I got to have control and necessary solitude. Cosmetics are much deeper than people realize. They can be a getaway to a much deeper place for women to discuss their lives. The bathroom is where we laugh, we bleed, and we cry. I have never spent time in a bathroom with women for more than 15 minutes until someone speaks a vulnerable thing about their life. It's the one place men are not allowed to enter. It is our sacred space, and we get to speak our truth. Do you think we're really going to the powder room all together so we can watch each other powder each other's noses? We're talking about you. Time and time again, in my experience, lipstick is a catalyst or launching point for women to become more real, less afraid, and entirely more adventurous. With their style, their self-image, their unveiling of their true selves. Some of my deepest conversations in my life began with, "Can you show me how to use lip liner?" We have to go back to Egypt to find the origins of how and when women and beauty ritual became solidified. Egypt was using eyeliner long before anyone else, both men and women. The black coal they would smear on their eyes blocked out the harsh sun. So the eyeliner had a dual purpose, but for sure it was stylized to create a look, that quintessential Egyptian pharaoh look. Black eyeliner has been a part of our lives ever since, and isn't that the best eyeshadow in the world? Once we finally unearthed the bust of Nefertiti, a bit of our past in the way of beauty ideals revealed itself. She came complete with lipstick too. Another choice, not necessary, and yet it's there. Decor has always been around. She's been informing our beauty ideals ever since. Fast forward 1,300 years or so to a leader responsible for writing the first book on beauty, beauty ritual, and remedies, Cleopatra. She is the reason we have masks. We put rose petals in our bath water, because I do that all the time. The idea of cleansing, moisturizing, using toners to get dirt off, all comes from her. Cleopatra understood that beauty was not about being beautiful. It was about self-care. It was about relaxing. It was a ritual. She was fierce at times and a ruthless leader, full of guts, bravery, and smarts. She gave us the advents of lotion and fragrance and cures for baldness, all while commanding armies. Would anyone ever accuse her of being superficial? Fast forward 1,900 years or so, and we come to a figure whose influence on modern style and fashion is readily seen on a daily basis. Coco Chanel. She is one of my personal icons. She developed the first synthetic perfume, Chanel No. 5. She could see well into the future when she created the universal hemline, a hemline coming already with the dress so it's sewn in as you buy it. That was not done before. The female suit, female pants, all a scandal she was responsible for. The fact that we tan is because of Coco Chanel. If you're looking for a little black dress, it's because she invented that whole idea. She was a true visionary and an original. She had some flaws. She wore fur, which I will never forgive her for. She was a morphine addict from 1935 until her death in 1971. That's a very long time to be an addict. And maybe possibly just uncovered, she might have been a Nazi spy. Oh, how our heroes fall. Despite these revelations and how complicated of a person she was, her mark on our everyday lives is clear. She was a true icon, not just for fashion, but for how to express female empowerment. We can wear the pants, because she made it so, all without a husband and children. Would anyone ever call her superficial? Fast forward 55 years. The Cold War, the Falkland Islands War, Thatcher, Carter, Reagan, add some cocaine and steroids, a high dose of unemployment, the beginning of the end for the middle class, the birth of the me generation, homelessness, and some mean doses of teen angst. It's not just that the establishment was wrong, It was that we had to overthrow the establishment and create anarchy. The punk movement is born. Punk was a fashion extreme, so it would be interesting to see where it settled in the mainstream. While there were very real conversations about politics and deeply sincere expressions of rebellion worth having a dialogue about, I want to make clear that punk was a philosophy. The greatest avenue of communication for punk, however, was the music and fashion. The punks of Trafalgar Square in London had the best makeup around. Punk exploded fiercely onto the scene and only had a few years of taking over the culture. It died quite quickly, although many of us will maintain that punk can never die. Look at that eyeshadow. Yes. Punk evolved into post-punk, and then new wave, and then goth. At the very same time, another group was gaining notoriety in the mainstream, appreciation in larger urban areas, the drag queens. Punk allowed drag queen makeup to get even more elaborate, and it's hard to figure out if drag queens influenced punk or if punk influenced drag queens. There's Divine. So where does all of this get us? Where does the trajectory from Cleopatra to Coco Chanel to punk end up? A strong, fearless female leader, an icon of fashion, style and smarts and masculine posturing, and rebels with an outrageous way of expressing themselves. How does it all cohesively fit together? What happened in 1984 to put this whole thing together to begin the empowering revolution of beauty? Don't laugh. If your bra strap is showing and you didn't think two thoughts about it, you have Madonna to thank for that. If you're wearing high heels and jeans, you can thank Madonna for that. If you see nothing shameful about expressing your sexuality as a woman, you can thank Madonna for that. If you do not apologize for having creative vision, for dreaming big, for being all at once a nerd, a sex symbol, and a boss, you can thank Madonna for that. If you're concerned about the size of your biceps, you can also thank her for that. Madonna succeeded in doing something Gloria Steinem could not. She succeeded in doing something 500 years of the art world could not break free from. And here is my proposal. Madonna turns sexuality into a form of expression rather than a means of attraction. Madonna is not interested in getting a man. Her fan base is not a heterosexual man. Her images are not about being seductive so much as they are about being provocative. She doesn't want you. She wants to be her and live her fantasy. She is clearly not available. She's just creating images that make you think and might provoke a reaction. They invite the viewer into a world of color, style, and female empowerment. What Madonna did was to shift the male gaze. The male gaze is a term usually used in art to describe the way in which women have been depicted through the centuries. How we perceive women who have been painted, photographed, and filmed is through the perception of how men have viewed them over time. Men were the artists, the photographers, the cinematographers and directors, and mostly still are. Everything about how paintings, photos, and scenes and characters of women in films is about how to entice the eye of the male. How are women to figure out who they are from an authentic perspective, from within themselves, from an objective way of looking at who they are, if men have been in command of the image the whole time? It's virtually impossible. There is something about a woman with her hands up over her head that men seem to like. It's been replicated time and time again. Until we get to Patti Smith, who decides not to shave her armpits and look down, which I think is brilliant. The reclining female is another image we see over and over and over again. And then finally we hit the 80s. And something about the early 80s put the male gaze into hyperdrive. Not sure if this was the cocaine or the amount of women coming into the workplace that threatened the male-only atmosphere, but everything got bigger. Now characters could embody the male gaze, walk around it during prime time. Daisy Duke, the sister, of course, of the Duke brothers, not a wife. Her only purpose was to make the General Lee look pretty. Women were now in 3D decoration mode for the male world. Women with cars, with guns, with horses, an ornament for the testosterone inclined. And who could forget the appalling Spuds MacKenzie Bud Light women? Who would take a dog out to dinner just to fawn over him? Oh, I see, just as long as it wasn't another man. We get to date dogs, so you feel like you can have a fantasy about this with your Bud Light. This whole entire marketing was absolutely disgusting. The two greatest characteristics of the male gaze are the look a woman is giving you through the camera and her availability, either through status or pose. Over the centuries, there were artists, both male and female, who challenged this, and many with success, and that's a whole other talk. There were women before Madonna who cut the jungle brush down so she could walk through. Someone who was very confident in her beauty, Frida Kahlo, the gender-bending David Bowie, the original abstract makeup person, Uhura, who could command a ship with the men, Patti Smith, another gender bender, and a punk, Diana Vreeland, the editor of Vogue in the 60s and 70s, who brought fashion into an art form and gave creative license to the models to direct their own shoots. Jane Goodall, who knew that journalists were remarking about her legs and looks in every article, so she used those attributes to her advantage to get the funding she needed. She would never attend a lecture without a pretty dress and lipstick on. Gloria Steinem used her beauty to be able to sit in front of powerful men and debate them on the national stage. Donna Summer sang about working hard for the money, bad girls, looking for hot stuff, and enough is enough. I want him out, I want him out, I want him out that door now. A duet she sang with Barbra Streisand, who, when asked what she said to herself in the mirror every day, she replied, "Hello, gorgeous." These women knew not to shy away from or try to hide their beauty. They used it to their advantage. Take the system and the male gaze for a ride. Get what they needed, funding, exposure, and their voices to be heard. Beauty was starting to be a thing to be celebrated and owned, rather than a thing to be cultivated for your husband at home. Empowerment became not about the ego, but a real sense of owning your beauty. You were not put on this planet for men to find you attractive. Your reason for being is to stand in your own skin and proclaim your gorgeousness, not because of pretty, but because you exist. You can choose, or not, the colors you want to accentuate your eyes or lips because it's how you want to alter your look. I do not go into Sephora thinking that I'm going to get a lipstick that will help me get married. No. I go into Sephora getting a lipstick that will help me relive the moment in 1982 when I saw Jacqueline Smith take down a man on Charlie's Angels in her corduroy culottes. MK Mustard wears her necklace here every day because it's the seal of who she is. Before she leaves the house, she makes sure it's on. It's an armor of owning her beauty. It seals everything about her. She doesn't wear it to get compliments. She wears it because it came from a time and place that is complete to her. It's a sense of style and ownership. Madonna owned her beauty. She belonged to no one. When the Express Yourself video came out in 1989, feminists were appalled that Madonna depicted herself chained up in bed waiting for her man to come home. Many feminists are still so wed to the filter of the male gaze they can't see beyond the shock to understand the subtlety. Madonna was the boss of that factory in the video, and she had a secret desire to be submissive after she was done with her work. In sex-positive circles, that's called a healthy way of expressing yourself. Sometimes we are so single-minded we can't take the various ways in which women can express themselves. If you depict different modes of who you are or different aspects of your personality, well then you must be reinventing yourself, which Madonna has been accused of at least every month. Why can't she just be her? And all those aspects be her as well. Women have never been singular. We just haven't been able to explore all of who we are because we've been trapped in homes and motherhood, some by choice, others not. When Madonna posed nude to make money so she could pay her rent, and later when those photos made it to Playboy, people wanted her to feel shame. She flipped the script as if to say, I don't have any shame. Why would I have any shame? You've told us all along that the female body is beautiful, that it's a wonder to look at, that it's a prize. So when I pose so I can make money, then you seem to say, well, this is shameful, but haven't you been asking me to find myself beautiful? So where is that line? Madonna had to draw the line herself. So with her not feeling shame, it was as if she was throwing the shame they felt about consuming her images right back in their face. And it was one of the most intelligent moves of the feminist movement. We are finally gaining our own gaze. We are beginning to look at our faces and bodies as we see them, not as society sees them. Do not let any other notion other than your own dictate your feelings about how you look. You are in charge and you have ownership. The gaze is shifting rapidly, and women are claiming their looks as they are, left and right. I find nothing more beautiful right now than Lena Waithe. I think she's absolutely gorgeous, and she has chapstick and a baseball hat, and that's great. And I love her. She's just beautiful. Lena Dunham, refusing to lose weight, flipping the script on the male gaze, Amy Schumer. And let's not forget the impact we haven't even begun to unpack from the transgender movement. This is Jenny Boylan, one of the favorite people that is on the planet at this time for me. I hope to meet her one day. Read her book. It is an amazing exploration of transitioning into the female world. It's called She's Not There. Ruby Rose, refusing to conform to gender, and she has a major makeup contract. Kate Bornstein, a radical in her day and still fighting for LGBTQ rights, and also non-conforming in gender. The very idea that you could be gender fluid I find incredibly liberating. These are the voices that will define the next decades of beauty. I am more and more fascinated by the male to female transitions and what it says about all of us, about femininity and what it means to be a woman. Those are the stories I want to hear. And so we thank the pharaohs for our 5 millennium relationship with black eyeliner. We thank Cleopatra maintaining her rose petal baths while commanding armies. We thank Coco Chanel for making pants for women. We thank the punks for bursting through with extremes so that we can now legitimately wear yellow and red eyeshadow, along with some green. We thank the drag queens who, under real threats for their lives, still got out their eyelash glue and shaved their eyebrows. We thank all the women who, through the ages, despite being brutalized, living as shells of who they could have been because of the oppression of religion, patriarchy, and capitalism, took the time to still paint their nails, put on their heels, and toss their hair. So that at least for one moment alone in their ritual, they might get a chance to have a good old hello gorgeous. For all the women who've been accused of looking pretty for men, or for primping to cover up some low self-esteem, or spending time on superficial vanities, I say this to you. I know what you are doing in all of those hours in the mirror. You are developing a sense of self, a personal sense of style, and a backbone to stack it all on top of, to slick about at your will. I get you. Chanel once said, beauty begins the moment you decide to be yourself. So it is that self, with chapstick and a baseball cap, maybe, that's great. I love that and I'm very jealous of that. If your self includes primer, false eyelashes, smoky eyes, and the perfect nude lip, then glob it on and don't look back, honey. May we finally now all together acknowledge beauty. Beauty routines and ritual are not about attraction, but about personal expression, power, and ownership. I am gorgeous, not because a lipstick says so, but because I know who I am. And I have decided to be myself despite all the demons I have had to go through. I have accepted the role and I will keep my mascara on, thank you very much. And so I forge forth with confidence and with lots and lots of purple glitter eyeshadow. Thank you.
We're going to open the floor for questions if anyone has any questions for Carrah. Well,
Makeup scares people.
it does, I guess. That's okay. We got good music coming. Oh, one question.
Actually, yeah. Did you choose? Oh, wait. Did you choose this picture on purpose because of the Ankh?
No.
You started off as Cleopatra and then ended up on Ankh.
Oh, so that's Kate's thing. She's got lots of Ankhs. She's got the tattoo. She's got another tattoo of it somewhere. That's Kate's
I
thing.
just found it ironic.
Oh, okay. Wow, I didn't even think of that.
And in this, I don't know exactly how to ask this question. Do you have any I like to use in my personal life the Jungian idea of masks. Like whenever I do something, I concentrate on being like the icon of what I'm trying to accomplish. Do you have anything to say about like how that would apply to this?
Well, I think masks can go two ways. Masks can be a cover-up, and then masks can be a really, like war paint. You know, like you're going into the world, and so you have to adorn yourself in a way. But then masks can also be something that, I don't know how this relates to Jung, but a way of covering up things you don't like about yourself. And I think that's something we have to be very careful of. But I also think that there's a way of the ritual that can, I just get tired of this notion that makeup somehow is superficial, because African tribes that don't have mirrors and aren't in capitalistic society still paint their faces. You know, it's a way of being. So.
Thank you.
I actually kind of sad that I don't have the opportunity, well, haven't felt socially acceptable to have the opportunity to paint my face, because it's just not acceptable for men.
Keep pushing.
Great. We're going to have Fire Dog come back up one last time, and as they play, we're going to pass the hat. A reminder, Oasis is a 501c3. Your donations are tax deductible, and if you've got a card that you've got to make a donation with, our merch table is able to handle electronic donations. So without further ado, Fire Dog.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks again for having us. We have one more animal we wanted to introduce you to. This is a song about an animal called the magic rabbit. And if you want to check out our music over here at the table afterwards, there's little drawings of each of the animals so you can get an idea of what they look like. This is kind of an interesting animal because it's not really a rabbit.
Magic rabbits live in
thanks to our presenters today. Thank you to Anne, thank you to Carrah, and thank you for coming out. Next week we have planned Melanie Phelps will be our featured speaker, and the musical guest is Joe Schoonover. Also, a lot of us meet after Oasis at Crown Center to hang out, chat, have a little lunch, so feel free to look for Oasis people pushing a lot of tables together in the food court area. So with that, I'll say see you all later. Have a good day.